shame on them. Shame on them. How grim can you get? How low can you go? Using an unprecedented disaster in California to reboot their own Netflix series and to brief the paparazzi so that they can get some positive coverage. Honestly, just when I think Prince Harry and Meghan Markle cannot stoop any lower, they manage to do so. Perhaps the only thing that has given me some heart is that the Hollywood elite are seeing through this absolute revolting performance. Justine Bateman, the actress, posted on X, Meghan Markle and Harry are no better than ambulance chasers. What a repulsive photo op they achieved. They are touring the damage. Are they politicians now? They don't live here. They are tourists. Disaster tourists. And in fact, the Sussex visit has raised the ire of many locals. Jack Poso posted on X, imagine losing everything in a fire and then having to put up with Meghan Markle on top of it. According to Taz, wrote, I couldn't imagine going to such a devastated area where people have lost absolutely everything, some even their lives, and then want to pose for a group photo. It's not exactly a time for a one of the photo album moment, is it? And of course it's not. Of course it's not. And you could actually see when they were posing for those pictures that Meghan, there she is, organising, making sure, let me be in the middle. Let me put on my smiling face. And that is why now people are actually spoofing this idea of the title of her Netflix series, With Love, Meghan, with the fire on in the background. Because Meghan and Harry thought that they were saving their reputations, using a disaster to save their reputations. In fact, they have done quite the opposite. So I want to head stateside now and join Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network. And Brittany, the outrage over Harry and Meghan's crass use of this natural disaster seems to be growing there by the hour. What is the latest? Oh, sorry, Brittany, we just don't have your audio. We'll just get that sorted.
Sorry, Dan. Thank you.
Start again, Brittany.
Yes. So when it comes to Harry and Meghan, I mean, they're absolutely shameless in this particular instance because this has been an absolute disaster and they have not responded, really, you could say, in any way other than to go there and get a photo shoot. And it's like, how are you helping? They don't even have the infrastructure themselves or even the money to be as helpful as somebody like Elon Musk, who is also apparently there and giving people and like city officials like Teslas and different things to charge batteries.
Yeah, and by the way,
Starlink
not
and
calling the paparazzi, Brittany,
Exactly.
to say, oh, I'm going to be here at this moment. Make sure you capture it.
Yes, and if you listen to the video from the local Fox station, they say we were alerted to their presence. And I'm like, I bet it was their own team who let them know that they were there because it's all about getting attention for it. Because a lot of celebrities have donated. We just heard Beyonce donated 2.5 million, but she's not going there, especially right now, given the disaster, the situation that it's just sort of the immediacy of it. You don't really need Harry and Meghan there. And you especially do not need them taking city officials and having and being given a tour around somebody's burned out home. Like, do those people know they were there? Do they know they were there so Harry and Meghan can feel bad? It's like that's somebody's life that you're traipsing around and not really seeming to give any sort of care. I just think it's absolutely despicable.
And of course, they made that demand, didn't they? Acting as if they are still some royal family members, which they're not, by the way. And they made that demand, open up your houses to people. And do we know if they've opened up theirs? Of course we don't. What was so astonishing, though, Brittany, is because the relationship between Harry and Meghan is so fraught, even in front of the cameras, they were unable to put their personal differences to one side, which I found astonishing. I want to show you a couple of videos, and I'll get you to comment as we go along. So first there was this video of Harry very clearly walking away from Meghan and looking really annoyed, Brittany. And there you can see he sort of storms off. There's also another moment where Harry looks incredibly unhappy as Meghan hugs someone. Look at his face, Brittany. What did you make of that?
Well, it could be, I mean, to me, I always feel like sometimes Megan hugging is part of the performance, that she needs to perform and hug somebody to look empathetic. And that could be what he's thinking there. But to be fair, that it is a very emotional moment there, so he might be reacting to something else. But when it comes to walking away, the whole walking away situation was very bizarre because he walked away way ahead of her. She was, I think, trying to do something, like she was meandering around, trying to, I think, look helpful for the cameras, but she didn't really have anything to do. At one point, she was interacting with her bodyguard, and I'm like, well, you don't really need to be interacting with him. They had, like, I think, 4 bodyguards, their own personal security around them, and it's like, so you need to bring all this security just to volunteer and help? I mean, granted, it is sort of an evolving situation, but the whole thing seemed very self-serving. It was entirely self-serving, and when it comes to even their communications, I find that to be very fractured. Like, they're posting simultaneously the same things on their both of their websites, Archewell and Sussex, and I'm like, why? Because isn't the whole thing is that you should only post on one side at a time? And then you have the strange thing of when it came to posting about Guy, it seemed like Harry didn't even exist. Like, it was just her dog. She mentioned him once, just using his initial, and it just seemed like it was her dog and her grief. So I really feel like there's sort of even a separation growing in their communications, and there's some sort of maybe breakdown happening behind the
Oh, big
scenes,
time.
because I
Big
find
time.
the whole thing very bizarre.
Well, look at this video where Meghan is clearly unhappy at Harry hugging someone. Look at her face there. That is the face that people like me know well, because she just cannot hide it from the cameras. And I also thought it was particularly grim the way that they walked away from the cameras, Brittany, and waved as if this was some sort of red carpet event. It's like they never get the tone right. You have no official role. And it's very, very weird. I also wanted to show you this other moment, which was picked up by Princess Carparkle, who wrote, and I'll just set it up from this tweet. This is funny. Princess Markle, and they're obviously saying Princess Markle because that's what the
That was
American
really funny.
broadcasters responded to them, goes to grab Prince Doofus's hand, but he's really not having it and is ready to hug a lamppost if it'll give him an excuse to let go. This kind of discombobulates Princess Markle, so she starts nervously and aimlessly wandering, looking for someone whose space she can invade. It's fascinating. So that's the setup. Let's have a look at this video, Brittany, and see if you agree with what's going on, because certainly there was a lot of uncomfortable interaction, wasn't there?
There was, and it's so bizarre how they act of all the hand holding all the time, because it's like, this is a disaster zone. Are you on a date? You don't really need to be hand holding as you're walking. Ray, Harry's weird wave. I'm like, what are you doing? It's like he almost doesn't know what to do. But I think he is sometimes does get frustrated with the constant clinginess of her. She constantly has to cling
Mm.
to him. Even in that video of them walking away, he has to switch hands so she can hold the other hand. And I'm like, "Why? You just go and comfort the woman. Why are you constantly need to hold his hand too while you're doing it?" It's just sort of very bizarre behavior, but I think there's definitely just seems to be, I would go back to that CBS interview in August, like, there definitely seems to be sort of a fracture that's starting to occur, and things aren't moving or happening as smoothly as they did before. And Harry's kind of like, okay, I'm done with some of this hand holding stuff. You can talk to somebody else now, because there are bigger issues here than you needing to hold somebody's hand.
Oh, big time. But you know, this was all about appealing to the mainstream media, Brittany, and I think it is worth looking at how the visit was covered by the American outlets who, I mean, look, these guys are very woke. They're very woke. They don't know what's going on, and they do start referring to Meghan as Princess Markle. Watch this.
They just arrived here not that long ago, and we were alerted to the fact that they were here. Earlier today, we also had an opportunity to grab first partner Jennifer Siebel Newsom, who was also giving out food. You see, there we have a better shot of Princess Markle as Meghan, as she's wearing that LA ball cap and talking to some of the volunteers. Not a lot of big fanfare for their arrival, obviously. I'm sure they just wanted to come and offer support and well wishes as they are hanging out with the commoners, I guess. That's one way to put it, huh, Marla?
Yeah, yeah.
And again, I just see the backside of Chef Jose Andres, whose World Central Kitchen has been so generous in making sure that evacuees have food and first responders as well. So other than
let me just
see, I don't.
Let me just
Sure.
tell you this, Susan. So, Prince Harry and the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, they've already opened their home, $14 million home, by the way, in Montecito, which is, 90 miles north of the Palisades. They've opened their home to their friends who have, been forced to evacuate. Which, isn't surprising, makes sense. But they also have their Archwell Foundation, named after their son Archie. And they're determining the most impactful ways to support those in need right now. So in addition to, I'm sure, working with Jose Andres and figuring out how they can help, they do have the Archwell Foundation. And they're trying to figure out, how best can we give back.
Pass me the sick bucket. Pass me the sick bucket, Brittany. They're not doing anything of the sort. But then, of course, we had this absolutely bizarre moment last night when they decide to drop the news of the delay of the Netflix series, which we'll come to in just a moment, of course, because not all is what it seems there. And according to Taz, posted on X, are you actually kidding me? The news reporter is stood in the ruins of one of the biggest wildfire disasters California has ever seen. And Sky News, I call them Sly News, Brittany, reports that Meghan's cooking show release has been delayed. Everything that's happening, and that's breaking news, really. And I promise you, that is exactly what Sly News did. Watch this.
Well, we'll just show you these images that we had of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, who paid a visit just a couple of days ago to some of those who've been displaced by the fire. They went into one of the rescue centres, a very low-key visit, and spoke to people there. Well, we're just getting some breaking news, hearing that Meghan Markle's premiere of her Netflix cooking show, now that was due to premiere this week. It is instead now it's been delayed. It's going to be premiered on the 4th of March instead. This is due, they're saying, to the wildfires that have devastated Los Angeles. We know that it has affected the film industry. Filming at Universal Studios has been halted during the fires, and also the premiere of the Robbie Williams film Better Man was also postponed last week because of the fire. That was due to happen here in Los Angeles. So Meghan Markle's series also now going to be delayed because of what's happened here in Los Angeles.
I mean, goodness me, they just let themselves down time and time again, don't they, the mainstream media, Brittany? But you don't buy the explanation. You don't buy the fact that Meghan is trying to say, oh, the show is a celebration of Southern California. Your view is actually she should have gone with this, and there's a reason why she chose not to.
Yeah, I think, Dan, the whole thing just seems almost too convenient in some ways, because when it comes to her show, obviously it was ratioed into oblivion. Last I looked, it's like 150,000 downvotes to like 15,000 upvotes, or 16. So she's absolutely
Wow.
getting ratioed by the public. So she has like a 10% around approval rating, you could say. And so this timing can be seen as a bit of convenient, because maybe she can do some editing behind the scenes. I imagine something will be added given the wildfires, but she's taking a huge risk because obviously it's between two huge news events, which are these fires, and then of course the inauguration is going to be next week. And so if the show performs really badly and she put it on now, maybe the attention would wane really quickly. But waiting till March, she could get a lot more attention, but could turn really negative too. And she has no clue what's going to happen in those next 2-ish months. And so I think this is sort of a risk and a gamble. I think she should have gone ahead with it. It might have given some people some escapism, but I really feel like the whole thing, well, the fires are so bad. It's like, but she's not directly impacted in terms of there's not fires in her community currently. Hopefully there is not, but it just seems like it doesn't really make much sense, although it could
No.
be too that she's hoping that main audience in Los Angeles really watches her show.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she doesn't know who's going to watch
Well,
it.
to be honest, I think there's a really cynical reason behind this, actually, and that is because she saw how badly the trailer went down. So let me share a couple of posts with you. This is what Princess Carparkle had to say. With Love, Meghan will now premiere on March the 4th. I guarantee you they're reworking it because of the backlash. She didn't need to delay the launch. There are people outside of California with access to Netflix. I absolutely believe the fires are an excuse, and they're retooling the show due to the reaction to the trailer exploiting a disaster again. And now I have some breaking news from our good friend, Lady Colin Campbell, who will be here on Thursday, Brittany, who writes, I am informed that contrary to the story being promulgated by the Duchess of Sussex that the delay of the launch of her lifestyle series with Love Meghan from this Wednesday to the 4th of March was her idea, it was entirely Netflix's. They evidently strongly recommend that she use the intervening period to try and turn around the wave of unpopularity that has engulfed all of them, unbelievably to their surprise. So this is someone who is Hollywood royalty, now that Lady C is quoting, saying they thought they might have problems owing to how toxic she now is, but they've been taken aback by the depth of feeling the public have shown. Lady C goes on to say, so what does she do? She goes and shows the public even more clearly what a ghoul she is by plugging in yet again to disaster the way she tastelessly did at Uvalde, once more tipping off TMZ of her and Harry's intentions to do their version of ambulance chasing. She posed up a storm, then moved off to hug a member of her detail, all while surrounded by the cameramen who had accompanied her. She has been rightly condemned for this deathly display of opportunistic limelighting, but at least she was canny enough to dress down, which is more than could be said for the perfectly groomed First Lady of California, who looked as if she was preparing for one of Anna Wintour's left-of-centre Vogue magazine's spread. I gather the visit lasted all of 17 minutes, 5 minutes longer than the time spent with His Majesty the King when Harry crossed the Atlantic for that photo op. Does this couple have no shame? And Brittany, great insight there from Lady Colin Campbell as always. In answer to her question, no, they don't have any shame, because I remember, Brittany, when Harry and Meghan refused to even countenance delaying their sick royal racist interview with Oprah Winfrey as Prince Philip lay dying in hospital. They didn't delay the launch of the Netflix show after the death of the Queen, the late Queen Elizabeth II. So I think this is all about them.
Oh, yes, 100%. I agree with you, Dan, because I think she's starting to get really nervous and Netflix is starting to get super nervous because I don't think they anticipated the reaction to her. Like, I think they're somewhat aware of it, but there's sort of a bubble in Hollywood. And I feel like some people who are sort of on the outside, you could say, of this royal watching world, like they think they see all the headlines and think Harry and Meghan are popular, all the puff pieces, and then they associate with them. And then the backlash is immense. And they're like, oh, well, I guess this isn't quite so good. And so I think there's somewhat of a learning curve there, but this gives them plenty of time to re-edit. I mean, this is a long time. As somebody mentioned, the Invictus Games is in February, so releasing it in February would be a little bit of a risk there, but there should be plenty of time. So I personally believe there's going to be some editing going on behind the scenes with this to make
Big
her
time.
look
Because
better,
all of a
hit
sudden,
better. I don't know.
this is a celebration of Southern California.
Exactly.
Which it never was. It was never sold as that. And the reaction to the trailer, Brittany, has been overwhelming in the US. I want to show you some of it. Greg Gutfeld posted on X, one of the most understated qualities of being an American is the refusal to bend when the cool kids tell you that you must like something. Hillary in 2016, Kamala in 2024, and this imposter. you find that what's truly cool is telling these clueless assholes, no thanks, you can keep her. And of course, they didn't really have anyone beating their drum apart from Mindy Kaling, who seems to be one of the only Hollywood stars who has stayed loyal. But even she, during this interview with Deadline on the red carpet at the Golden Globes, even she didn't really seem to want to defend Meghan and Harry that much. Watch this. But first, everyone's focused on eating better and staying active after the holidays. Personally, I find it tough to cut out constant snacking and junk food, especially in the cold. And goodness me, it has been cold in the UK over the past couple of days. I keep up with my workouts year round, but let's face it, no amount of exercise can outdo a poor diet. Now, this struggle often stems from an imbalanced metabolism, which disrupts hunger hormones and triggers intense cravings for sugars and carbs, causing blood glucose levels to spike. So that's why I take Cellbean by Verso. It's made with ingredients that help regulate blood sugar, curb cravings, and boost metabolism. They also work to shrink existing fat cells and prevent new ones from forming. I've been taking it for over 6 months now and have noticed I feel less hungry throughout the day, which means I'm snacking less. And I'm not alone. Their customers are seeing amazing results. One shared, I'm in my mid-30s and I've been roughly the same weight for years. With these products, I've been able to lose weight and feel amazing physically. Another said, I've had several people comment that I've lost weight and I've really noticed a reduction of fat in my midsection since taking the product. Plus, Verso publishes third-party testing from each batch produced to guarantee you are getting what you pay for. So click the link in the description on YouTube or Rumble, or head on over to buy.ver.so/outspoken and use the coupon code outspoken when you check out, and you will save 15% on your first order. So I'm just going to repeat the address, buy.ver.so/outspoken, and use the coupon code outspoken. But now, back to the show.
To read that I believe you're going to appear on Meghan's cooking show?
Yes.
What was that like?
You know, I was just in my maternity leave, and Meghan texted me and said, hey, do you want to come be in my show and come up to Montecito and have me cook for you? And I was like, yeah, that sounds perfect. I would love to do that.
How was the cooking? What did you guys eat?
Well, I think of myself as kind of a okay cook, and she unsurprisingly kind of blew me out of the water. But the thing about her recipes and being there was it was just really accessible. I mean, she has a garden, and she has a garden from like scratch, which I could never do, and chickens, which they would all die if I tried to take care of chickens. But other than that, I was like, oh, this is like very accessible.
How's Harry's cooking skills? As a Brit, I have to ask.
Harry was there, but he didn't cook for me. But I heard he's actually a pretty good cook. He knows his way around a kitchen.
That's impressive. Okay.
That was like pulling teeth, wasn't it, Brittany?
It definitely was. And it's funny that she mentioned that the garden and I can't remember what the other thing was. And I'm like, but they didn't even film at her house.
No.
So why are you talking about her garden when you weren't even there? Unless there's like a bit where they actually filmed there, I'm not sure. But yeah, it seemed like she wasn't that invested in it. And what I always find fascinating, especially with somebody like Greg Gutfeld, Justine Bateman, is that people who don't really follow this space, they're totally recognizing who Harry and Meghan are. They're not fooled. And I think, especially because we got a lot of people like Meghan McCain who don't normally comment on it, saying, hey, I saw this. I used to be a fan. I'm not impressed. I think this just doesn't look very good. I think that's an indicator and should be a warning sign to Harry and Meghan, is going, hey, you're having a lot of reputational damage at this point, and people aren't falling for the same BS that they used to, let's say, a couple of years ago. So it's almost like they really need to recalibrate, but I just don't think Harry and Meghan are actually capable of doing that at this point. But I don't think Mindy Kaling, she sort of blamed being a new mom on going and doing Meghan's show, which I find very funny. But yes, most of Hollywood is
it was a bit like, oh yeah, I had nothing to do, why not? It really was not a full throttle defense. And you're right, actually, talking about the people who did weigh in this week. I want to play you two absolutely damning examples, Brittany. Brilliant, both of them. First, the rising star comedian Tim Dillon, and then Kennedy from Fox News. Let's watch both of these now, Brittany.
About anything, we're just going to watch Meghan Markle make a cupcake at the end. Like, that's the last thing we have. Could that show be happening at a more perfect time? There are drones the size of SUVs over people's homes. Cars are exploding in the middle of the street. Terrorists from ISIS, who we fucking have in our own military, are driving Turo rental cars down Bourbon Street and killing good people. Fog is blanketing the country for days. People are getting sick. Maybe it's alien spores. Maybe it's not. What is an alien spore? What's going on? And in the middle of all this psychopath will not stop. She will not stop.
Nope, she won't.
She doesn't care what happens. If the aliens land, if China launches, if Russia drops the big one in Ukraine, it won't matter to this bitch. She doesn't care. Play it again.
And then we've got Kennedy here.
Wonderful that we're here together, fake laughing. Oh, wait, no. That's the new Netflix trailer for Meghan Markle's show, With Love, comma, Meghan. Ew, bar from my mouth. I suffered through the trailer, which was the dumbest thing I've ever seen, which makes me think she might be mentally compromised somehow. I've always thought that she is nuttier than a sack of squirrel turds, and she's a bad person. So she obviously knew who Prince Harry was and, you know, worked her magic and sprinkled her vaginal pixie dust all over his ginger beard and somehow got him to fall in love with her, and then became the world's most famous family wrecker. Got him for the sake of making money to trash his family, make the queen sad, which is an unforgivable sin.
Totally.
And then, of course, they moved across the pond to just outside of Santa Barbara to Montecito, which is where Oprah lives and Ellen used to live until she got so sick of Harry and Meghan that she had to move all the way back to England, the one place she knew she would never run into Meghan Markle. So she and Portia are like, we are blowing this bougie popsicle stand. So they moved back to England because they know they'll never see them there. And I'm convinced of that.
Tim Dillon and Kennedy got it so right, Brittany. And the only person seeming to leap to Meghan's defense over the trailer was Abigail Spencer, who posted a whole load of weasel words on her Instagram story. And that was it.
That was. And the Abigail Spencer one is just like, you read through it and it's like, what is she talking about? Like, it makes no sense. But Meghan Markle did this to herself. She destroyed Harry's relationship with his family. She disrespected the Queen, disrespected the British people, disrespected the monarchy, what it stands for, Catherine, William, Charles, Camilla. Like, she disrespected everyone, and people aren't blind. I feel like she thinks she can just walk through life and not have to deal with the consequences of her decisions. But of course, gravity affects everyone. We all get hit with it at some point. And more people are catching on to this. And I think the tone of the show, I just don't think it's going to play well with people. It looks very uppity. I don't see how it's accessible if you're filming in an $8 million mansion and you have a $14 million mansion nearby. I don't see how people are going to gravitate to this. I think the timing's wrong, the tone's wrong, the premise and setup is wrong. I think she completely and utterly misjudged her audience. I don't even think she knows who her audience is. And she's playing to an audience of one, probably, which is herself. And that's probably about the worst thing she can do.
Indeed it is. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.